The night before the wedding, Willow, dressed in a wedding gown, was enjoying herself with her first love. She had originally planned to settle down by having a child with him, and then focus on marrying me so I could help raise her son. She would be a good wife and mother from then on. For this, she even had hymenoplasty to achieve flawless concealment. However, what she never imagined was that, at the wedding, she would instead find my corpse. It was only then that she realized I had evidence of every time she cheated on me. While she was madly seeking revenge on her first love for my death, I had already changed my name and identity. I was living a new life on a small coastal town in Italy. Chapter 1. Mr. Wong. Just to confirm once more, your fake death will occur on November 7th, due to an overdose of sleeping pills. After the contract is signed, please return it. If you wish to cancel, please reply by the end of today. On the balcony, my hand trembled slightly as I held the phone. November 7th was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, the wedding day with Willow, my girlfriend of 3 years. Instead, I had decided to fake my death on that very day and leave it all behind. Before I could speak, a fragrance wafted toward me. I quickly hung up the phone and, looking up, saw her silhouette entering the room, my fiancée. Willow, she asked softly, who were you on the phone with? What's that in your hand? Willow's stunning face showed a gentle smile, charming and soft. A fake death contract, I silently answered in my mind, but instinctively, I pulled the document closer to myself. I responded, it's nothing, just a business contract from the company. Her small, unconscious gesture didn't catch Willow's attention. She smiled sweetly, reaching into her bag to pull out 2 premarital health check reports. She said, our health check reports are in. We're both healthy. Soon we'll have a healthy baby. Are you happy? I gave it a casual glance. I knew more than Willow did. This report wasn't meant for us. It was for her and her first love, Makoto. 8 years ago, Makoto had to part ways with Willow due to unavoidable circumstances. Recently, he had returned to the country and reconnected with Willow. He told her that his life was near its end and the only regret he had was never being with her, never having a child with her. The reserved Willow, who had always told me that she would save her first time for our wedding night, had agreed without hesitation to Makoto's request. I asked, do you really want to have a child with me? She answered sweetly, of course, I've always wanted this. We're about to get married, and on that day, I will give myself to you completely. To me, those words sounded like a joke. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. She had already promised her first time to Makoto. How could she possibly give herself completely to me on our wedding night? Any expectations I had for our wedding had long disappeared when I learned the truth. I no longer felt any emotional fluctuations for a woman who was unfaithful. Willow gave her promise and headed to the walk-in closet to change. When she came out again, she had on a light makeup, wearing a seductive red dress that swirled around her. She twirled in front of me and asked, do you like it? Looks good, I replied flatly. She said, I need to go to City to meet with investors. There's a late flight. You don't have to wait for me. I responded indifferently with a hum. Noticing the howling winds outside, I remembered there was supposed to be a heavy storm tonight, and her flight probably wouldn't take off. I couldn't even be bothered to expose such an obvious lie. Willow seemed to sense something. Usually, when she went out at night, I would repeatedly remind her to be careful, but today, I had been unusually cold. The thought flashed through my mind, but Willow didn't ask further. She quickly grabbed her suitcase and left. At that moment, I noticed the phone on the table light up. A new unread message came through, from someone saved as Makoto. The message read, Panda Hotel, Suite 888. I'm waiting for you. It's been 8 years, and I've been waiting for today. Could you wear the red dress we first met in? No wonder she was in such a rush. She even forgot her phone. Today was the day she planned to give herself completely to Makoto. The so-called reserved nature crumbled in front of her first love. In the next second, the door opened again. Willow returned to grab her phone and glanced at me, asking, did you look at my phone? I looked up and answered calmly, no. What's wrong? Willow sighed in relief and asked me to wait for her at home, then hurriedly left. As soon as the door closed behind her, I picked up the pen and signed my name on the fake death contract. I no longer wanted to continue with Willow, nor did I want to love her anymore. I chose to fake my death on the day we were supposed to marry, change my identity, and leave the world where Willow existed. Chapter 2. I sat on the couch all night, replaying every moment from our past in my mind like a carousel of memories. 3 years is neither long nor short, but for me, this love was deeply etched in my heart. Willow was the first girl I met in my 20s whom I wanted to marry. It was because I cherished her that I respected everything about her. The message on my phone froze on a photo that Willow had sent me when she got off the plane, telling me not to worry and to get some rest. After that, it was as if Willow had disappeared, no word from her all night. I decided I would never love Willow again, but what I couldn't let go of were the beautiful memories I had with her over the past 3 years. I spent the whole night mourning for my love. From now on, Willow would no longer be part of my life. It was time to say goodbye to those memories. George, did you wait for me all night? Didn't I tell you to rest early? Why didn't you? It wasn't until noon the next day that Willow appeared in front of me again. When she saw my weary face on the couch, a flicker of guilt passed through her eyes. I replied, "No, I just woke up." I interrupted Willow's words with a coldness I had never shown before, but it was as if she didn't notice. She went about her business, heading to the bathroom with some clothes to shower. If she had just looked at me, she would have noticed that I was still wearing the same clothes as yesterday. From the moment she agreed to give Makoto her precious first time, Willow's heart had completely left me. Simply put, once love is gone, care is gone as well. That's all there was to it. In this regard, Willow was even more carefree than I was. Looking back at my behavior from last night, I almost found it laughable. I had already made the decision to leave. Why dwell on the past? It would only cause more frustration. Willow's walk was a little off. As she passed me, her body suddenly weakened, and I instinctively reached out to support her. She bit her lip and said, "I sat on a chair too long yesterday. I'm exhausted. My legs are sore." I looked down and noticed her knees were red. There was also a faint smell of cigarette smoke on her. She had really changed. The old Willow had been sincere, but now, to cover up the truth, she was telling lie after lie. We were both adults. Everything was clear without words, and I wasn't even interested in asking. I asked, "Do you want me to take you to the hospital?" She replied, "No need. It's fine. I'll just take a shower and rest for a bit. By the way, the custom suit is ready. You should pick it up when you have time." The sound of water splashing came from the bathroom. I seemed to understand now. Willow was planning to have a child with Makoto while still looking forward to our wedding. Was she worried that if Makoto died one day, their child would grow up without a father? And so she was preparing to step in as the backup. As I was thinking this, my phone suddenly buzzed. It was a message from Makoto. Makoto must have somehow found out my WeChat account. He was the one who told me about Willow planning to have a child with him. At first, I hadn't cared at all. I didn't even bother to tell Willow. But Makoto seemed to take pleasure in provoking me. He frequently sent me their chat logs. This time, he went as far as to send photos from last night, showing them going at it all night. He said, "She really wore herself out last night. I didn't expect that after 3 years together, she still had her first time." She was crying from the pain. I almost felt bad for her. We did it twice, and I took pictures. Want to see? I bet you've never even seen her body, have you? A few chaotic photos appeared in the chat. In them, Willow was both in pain and pleasure. She was freely releasing her charm on Makoto, a stark contrast to the reserved persona she had shown me. Even through the screen, I could feel Makoto's smugness. For 3 years, I had sought what I couldn't have, while Willow had treasured it. But in the end, it was all too easy for Makoto to break her down with just a few words. Looking at those photos, my heart was completely calm. From the moment I signed the contract, I no longer expected anything from Willow. I no longer had any hope. Love and hate are born together. When love stops, hate stops too. Willow came out of the bathroom wearing loose home clothes. Holding her phone with a frown, she asked, "Is this the suit you picked? Doesn't it seem a little too plain?" I glanced at the picture on Willow's phone. It was a slightly outdated suit, not very appropriate for a wedding. It almost looked like something a door-to-door insurance salesman would wear. I replied indifferently, "It's fine. I think it's nice." I had no expectations for the wedding with Willow. Whether the clothes or anything else didn't matter. After all, on that day, there would only be one dead groom. Chapter 3. Willow said, "I think we should talk." It seemed that she finally noticed my coldness. The next morning, Willow somehow climbed into bed beside me. The sudden intimacy made me feel very uncomfortable, even a little nauseous. I said, "You're awake. I'll go make breakfast." I found an excuse to push her away and was about to get up when Willow grabbed my arm. She bit her lip and said, "Are you upset about me going out last night? It's all my fault." "I'm sorry." I was momentarily stunned. What did this mean? Was she about to confess her relationship with Makoto? I watched her, waiting to hear how she planned to explain, but in the next second, she blinked and said, "I shouldn't have been out so late for business. As a woman, I shouldn't be so career-driven. I'm sorry. If you don't like it, I'm willing to compromise for you." I was speechless. Was she trying to use moral coercion now? Her gaze was innocent and pure, and I calmly replied, "I don't mind. You're overthinking it. I've always supported your career." Willow's career kept her busy. Over the past 3 years, I took on most of the responsibilities, making her the center of my life. Besides work, I even handled the household chores. But hearing my response, the doubt in Willow's eyes didn't fade. She said, "How about this? Tonight, there's a client reception at the company. Come with me, and they can vouch for me." She was an executive at the company, and with a single word, she could have countless people cover for her. So why did she feel the need to put on this act to deceive me? I found it somewhat laughable, even absurd. If only Willow could tell me everything honestly. I wouldn't have to fake my death. I would have simply exited with dignity. Unable to refuse Willow, I reluctantly agreed to accompany her to the company reception. The moment we walked in, we became the focal point of the event. People greeted us. Miss Liu and Mr. Wang, truly a match made in heaven. You two are getting married soon, right? I'll be sure to come and toast you at the wedding. Mr. Wang looks outstanding, truly the best of the best. He and Miss Liu are a perfect pair. The congratulatory remarks and praises filled the air. I responded politely, offering a smile. Willow, perhaps unconsciously, spoke to some of her subordinates about the wedding. Her subordinates eagerly played along, providing cover, claiming that they were in an important meeting that day and had been too busy to rest. I casually agreed, but no matter how beautifully a lie is spun, it's still a lie. I had already known everything, but I still had to pretend it didn't matter. The feeling was unbearable. Everything was progressing smoothly according to Willow's plan, but of course, an unexpected event occurred. A man, who appeared delicate and slightly sickly, appeared in front of us. He said, "Mr. Wang, hello, nice to meet you. I'm Makoto." Willow subconsciously pulled her hand away from mine, her face awkward. I responded, "Hello, I'm George, Willow's fiancé." I nodded, offering a polite greeting. Then, I asked, "Willow, do you two know each other?" She hesitated. "He's my friend." Willow looked at me with some guilt. Before she could say more, Makoto interjected, "Willow, it's all in the past. There's nothing to hide. Willow is my first love. I heard you're getting married, and I'm truly happy for you. Willow and I ended things long ago. Even if I had a second chance, I wouldn't get back together with her." Makoto wore a polite smile, playing the role of a good ex. I couldn't help but think, from an acting perspective, they made a perfect pair. As for what Makoto said, it was like a breeze brushing past my ears, but it struck Willow deeply. Her expression fluctuated, and her eyes turned red. She said, "You and I need to talk." In the next moment, in front of everyone's surprised gaze, Willow grabbed Makoto's hand and led him out of the reception, taking him to our chauffeur-driven car. With her eyes red, Willow questioned him. "What did you mean by what you said just now?" Makoto sighed and replied, "If time could turn back to 8 years ago, I would still choose to break up with you. I was very ill and couldn't be with you for the rest of our lives. How could I bear to leave you alone in this world? You're getting married now. I shouldn't have made such an unreasonable request. The only reason I wanted to have a child with you was so that, if I'm not around one day, someone would be there to take my place and be with you." Makoto gazed at Willow affectionately and tightly grasped her hand. With his emotional confession, deep gaze, and the private space between them, everything seemed inevitable. When I saw Willow again, another message from Makoto arrived. It was a photo from the chauffeur-driven car, of them indulging in each other's company. Willow said, "George, I'm sorry. I lost control earlier. Makoto is sick and doesn't have much time left." I closed my phone screen and looked at Willow. The Willow in the photo certainly looked out of control. I said, "I understand. I'm going to the restroom." Willow sighed in relief and said, "Then hurry back. I have a surprise for you." Chapter 4. I was washing my hands when I heard a voice from behind. The person said, "Don't worry. Once Willow and I have a child, the company and the Liu family will both belong to me." I was too immature back then. Liu family offered me $1 million, and I didn't dare to keep bothering Willow. Now, forget $1 million, no one would get even $1 billion. Terminal illness, my foot, I'm in great health. We've done it 4 or 5 times, and I must say, Willow is becoming more proactive. She knows how to please me. The next moment, the bathroom stall door opened, and Makoto walked out holding his phone. I was standing right in front of him, and we locked eyes. Makoto froze for a long time, slowly walking towards the sink. With a smile still on his face, he said, "You didn't hear what I just said, did you?" I glanced at him and calmly replied, "I heard everything." He didn't expect me to openly admit it, and his expression turned extremely ugly. He was about to say something, but I spoke first. "Only sincerity can earn sincerity. Lies will only breed lies and will never bring happiness." Those words left Makoto speechless. He shot a resentful look at me, then sneered. "Who are you to say such things? Do you even know who's living in a lie? If I hadn't told you, would you have ever known what Willow was really like? Has she ever told you what we've done together? Has she told you that she's planning to have a child for me? What does being her fiancé matter? With a single word from me, Willow will obediently spend the night with me. Can you do that? What's sincerity even worth?" After saying this, Makoto turned to leave, and I didn't bother to continue the conversation. Willow was toying with my sincerity, and now Makoto was doing the same with Willow's. Everything seemed like karma, and no one could escape it. As we reached the bathroom door, Makoto deliberately took a couple of steps to block my path. He said, "Before you two get married, I want Willow to stay with me." "You're asking for trouble. You're just a coward with no parents." Having grown up in an orphanage, I couldn't tolerate those words. I immediately clenched my fists. With a loud thud, I struck Makoto, sending him crashing to the floor. He looked pitiful. It's my fault. I shouldn't have appeared in front of you, but I'm seriously ill, and I'm about to die. Please forgive me just this once. His words attracted everyone's attention. Willow, wearing high heels, walked over, seeing Makoto with blood at the corner of his mouth. Her face darkened. She scolded. George, have you lost your mind? How could you hit him without reason? I told you he's sick. How dare you lay a hand on him? I was speechless. What were they just doing? Did she not know what was really going on? How could she so boldly claim that I was in the wrong without acknowledging the situation? I spoke slowly. This is ridiculous. You don't know why I hit him. If you want to know what he's done, there's surveillance footage. You can check it yourself. To my surprise, Willow unconditionally believed Makoto was innocent and insisted that I was in the wrong. She didn't even want to check the surveillance footage. She said, I only believe what I see with my own eyes. I was just thinking of giving you 30% of the company shares, and now you do this. George, apologize to Makoto. You must apologize. If you do, I'll still give you the shares. Using the company shares to force me to apologize to Makoto. I didn't care about those shares at all and had no interest in continuing this charade with two lunatics. I said, I didn't do anything wrong, and I won't apologize. I don't want the shares. If you're so upset, we can cancel the wedding. There was no way I was going to apologize to Makoto. She raised her voice. What are you saying? Willow's eyes grew colder. Makoto saw the situation escalating and fearing that Willow would actually check the footage. He staggered to his feet and said, Willow, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. You're about to get married, and I shouldn't have appeared and caused any misunderstandings between you two. I regret it. I shouldn't have shown up and made George misunderstand. Willow was relentless and demanded an explanation. In the end, with no other option, Makoto gritted his teeth and spat out a mouthful of blood in front of everyone. Willow was terrified. She immediately stopped paying attention to me and rushed to arrange for Makoto to be taken to the hospital. Chapter 5. In the days that followed, Willow dedicated herself fully to taking care of Makoto in the hospital. Makoto, seemingly enjoying himself, sent me pictures of him and Willow being intimate every day. Willow seemed to have forgotten that she still had me as her fiancé. It wasn't until the day before the wedding that Willow finally returned and placed the stock transfer agreement in front of me. Her eyes were cold, with no trace of affection left. She said, You're about to become my husband. The efforts you've put in over the past 3 years, this is what you deserve. I had originally planned to give this to you at the party, but then you did that. I was a bit stunned. I thought that over the past 3 years, what I shared with Willow was love, nothing more. But instead of a confession, I was met with this contract. 3 years of emotions now seemed like nothing but a transaction. It was at this moment that I finally realized Willow hadn't changed when Makoto appeared. No, she had never loved me at all over these 3 years. She only ever loved Makoto. Willow, however, casually sat beside me, naturally linking her arm with mine, resting her head on my shoulder, and reminiscing about our past, the misunderstandings when we first met, the gradual opening up, the emotions we shared. She remembered it all vividly. She said, From that moment on, I swore to myself that you were my ultimate destination in this life, and no one could ever replace you. As she spoke passionately, a tear almost glimmered in her eyes. She nuzzled my arm and said, Tomorrow, I will become your bride. I'll give myself completely to you. I love you, forever. I smiled along with her, but my smile was laced with sarcasm. Lies would always remain lies. Would she still remember the vows we once shared when she was happily fooling around with Makoto? At that moment, Willow's phone rang, but she didn't respond. The caller, however, persistently tried again, and reluctantly, Willow stood up and walked to the side to answer the call. Her face flushed, and her gaze turned passionate. At the same time, my phone rang. It was a message from Makoto. George, tomorrow is your wedding, but so what? Willow will still be with me tonight. Tomorrow, the woman who will be with you will be the one I left behind. She'll wear a wedding dress, lying beneath me. If you're smart, transfer the company's shares to me, and I'll disappear. Otherwise, it will be you who disappears. Makoto had sent me countless messages before, but I had never replied. This time, however, I finally responded, Fine, as you wish. I smirked, picked up a pen, and signed the contract, not with my name, but with Makoto's. She asked, Are you done signing? Willow looked at me apologetically and said, George, my girlfriends are insisting on throwing me a bachelorette party. I really can't get out of it. I interrupted her. Willow, do you remember what I said when I confessed to you? My sudden question made Willow's heart skip a beat. I paused before continuing. I told you, if one day you realize you no longer love me, please tell me. I will leave with dignity and bless you. Never lie to me. I won't accept any deception. I smiled, and that smile made Willow uneasy. She instinctively tightened her grip on her phone. With a slight quiver in her voice, she said, How could that be? I love you. Just as always, I would never lie to you. In that moment, I felt a strange sense of relief. In a way, Willow was right. Without love, how could there be deceit? I said. Well, enjoy yourself. I'll see you tomorrow. For the first time in days, she saw me smile like that, and her heart tightened. She worried that this might be the last time she would ever see me. She said, tomorrow is our wedding day. I'll be your bride. Looking my best, Willow finally turned and left. I watched her walk away, then took a picture of the contract, edited an email, and set it to be sent automatically to a friend of mine who was a police officer. Tomorrow, after I die, the email would be sent. Once everything was prepared, a man in a black suit arrived. He said, Mr. Wong, all your information in the country will be deactivated tomorrow. We've prepared a new ID, a new phone, and a flight ticket for you. From now on, there will be no more Mr. Wong in this world. I took the envelope from the man and handed him my phone. I said, tomorrow, bring the body to the wedding. Give this phone to the bride. I wanted Willow to see just how ridiculous her lies were. I wanted her to know that it was because of their repeated lies that led to my death. I wanted Willow to realize that it was her choice to still be with Makoto the day before the wedding that caused this to be the last time we saw each other in this life. For the rest of her life, Willow would regret her decision today, and she would live with the pain of it forever. I took one last look at the house we had lived in for 3 years, then turned and got in the car. Without looking back, I said, driver, take me to the airport. Chapter 6. As George left, in a room at the club, a different kind of spring was unfolding. Makoto seemed to be the king on high, looking down as he ruthlessly ravished Willow, who was wearing her wedding dress. Willow had grown accustomed to this feeling. She was lost in this immoral emotional whirlpool, unable to extricate herself, completely forgetting that tomorrow was supposed to be her wedding to George. At this moment, Willow only wanted to go wild with her former lover for the entire night. After a while, Willow collapsed into Makoto's arms and said, your health is getting worse. Makoto sighed. Sorry, my illness. Makoto hesitated as if there were more he wanted to say. Willow's gaze softened. Makoto truly seemed to be doing everything he could for the sake of the child. Willow pouted and said, tomorrow I'm getting married. If I can't get pregnant this time, it means we're not meant to have children. Pleasure is always temporary. What must be faced, must be faced. Willow didn't know how to explain things to George, but she was certain that George loved her. Since he loved her so deeply, surely he could accept everything about her, including the child she had with Makoto. Makoto gritted his teeth and said, if it weren't for my illness, I would never have agreed to you marrying him. He's not worthy. Makoto clenched his fists, showing a sense of helpless defeat. Willow shook her head and sighed. Even if I marry him, I'll still have you in my heart. But from now on, we can't be this close. Why? Makoto sat up, a look of confusion and panic in his eyes. Without a child, how would he be able to completely push George aside? How could he completely take control of Lou's company? She said, because I will be someone else's wife, and I won't be able to respect myself if we continue like this. Willow's heart was in turmoil. She didn't want to let go of the beautiful memories she had with Makoto, but she didn't want to destroy her marriage with George either. In a sense, George was the one who was most suited for her, the one she could grow old with. Makoto shook his head. No, Willow, you haven't done anything wrong. It's he who took you from me for 3 years. If I hadn't been ill, how could I have abandoned you? It's all my fault. All my fault. Makoto's eyes were bloodshot as he repeatedly hit his head in frustration. Willow, heartbroken, stopped him, tears streaming down her face, and said, just one last time, love me well, and let me have your child. Makoto threw himself back onto Willow, pressing harder than before. The room was soon filled with frantic cries of ecstasy. When Makoto finally fell asleep, Willow got up, climbed into a car, and left the club. She asked, is the corrective surgery arranged? The assistant replied, Miss Lou, it's all arranged. We've hired the best repair specialist in the country. It will be completed in an hour with no side effects. It'll be just like the first time. Hearing the assistant's words, Willow finally felt at ease. She had promised to give herself completely to George, and this small surgery was something she had carefully planned for him, to cover up the craziness that had taken place between her and Makoto in recent days. As dawn broke, Willow turned her phone back on. She stared at the empty screen, her heart inexplicably sinking. The entire night had passed with no messages. No calls, nothing. George had been eagerly anticipating their wedding, so how could he let her go wild on the eve of their marriage and ignore her? Willow gripped the phone, feeling a sudden sense of panic. Unable to resist, she sent a message. George, I'm about to become your bride, and I'm so nervous. Are you feeling the same? The message sank like a stone. Even after Willow changed into her wedding dress and finished her makeup, she still hadn't received any response. The feeling of emptiness left Willow confused. Her heart started to race for no reason. and she tried to comfort herself. Maybe it was too early, or perhaps George was busy. After all, he was the groom. Yes, that's probably it. It must be. The makeup artist noticed her anxiety and tried to comfort her, saying, "It's normal to feel this way the first time you get married. Everyone gets nervous before their wedding." But Willow didn't feel reassured. She still clutched her phone and couldn't help but dial George's number. But all she heard was the busy signal. Chapter 7. The wedding was set at the best hotel in a city. As the renowned beauty CEO of Lou Corporation, Willow's private life had always been a favorite topic for the media. Today was Willow's big day, and journalists had already set up their cameras outside the hotel, eager to capture her appearance in a wedding dress and to see what kind of man could marry this Lou family princess. Finally, Willow appeared outside the hotel in her wedding dress, and the reporters rushed to surround her. "Congratulations, Miss Lou, and happy wedding day. Could you introduce us to today's groom?" She replied, "His name is George. He was once one of the best young men in a city, and he's the perfect man in my eyes. For us, he gave up everything he once had and chose to step back behind the scenes. I've always been grateful and moved by his decision." In front of the cameras, Willow confidently revealed her relationship with George. This was the first time she publicly announced their relationship. For 3 years, George had quietly supported her behind the scenes, and she had always kept that in her heart. At this moment, she still felt a sense of guilt towards him. One curious reporter approached and asked, "Miss Lou, is he the man you were seen leaving the party with that day? You two looked quite a match." The reporter kept pressing, because, after all, Willow had left with Makoto at the party, and many people had seen them. The media had naturally assumed that Makoto was the groom, the young, talented man who had won the heart of such a goddess-like woman. Willow waved her hand and said, "He's just a friend of mine. I took him with me because he's seriously ill and it wasn't appropriate for him to be at a social event like that." This explanation seemed reasonable, but the reporters were still curious. They had never seen the usually dignified and composed Miss Lou show so much concern for an ordinary friend. One reporter continued to press, "But Miss Lou, someone saw you and him alone in a camper van for a long time. What were you two doing?" She furrowed her brows and replied, "I've already told you. He's ill. I was just being a good friend and taking care of him. Please don't make wild guesses. Today is my wedding day. Please don't ask strange questions or make my husband misunderstand." Willow's tone was clearly displeased. The reporters didn't press further, and instead shifted their focus back to Willow and George's wedding. They asked about their relationship details, their future plans, and so on. In front of the cameras, Willow emotionally shared the story of how she and George met and fell in love, even tearing up. Unsure of how much of it was truly sincere, she was full of hope for their future together. Amidst the blessings, Willow entered the hotel, where the guests were already chatting about the wedding. Willow truly valued this wedding with George. Everything had been meticulously chosen and arranged by him. Everything was just as she had imagined. She was about to become George's wife. The only thing that made her uneasy was that, up until now, she hadn't been able to contact George, and he was nowhere to be found at the wedding venue. Time passed, and everyone eagerly awaited the appearance of the young man who had won the heart of Lou's eldest daughter. But the next moment, the hotel doors opened, and a group of men in black suits walked slowly toward the hall. Willow's face lit up with a happy smile. No wonder George hadn't answered her calls. He must have been planning a dramatic entrance to make it even more unforgettable for her. Yesterday had been their last time together. From now on, she would be a good wife to George, loyal to their marriage, and never again get entangled with Makoto. Willow made a decision in her heart. Everything that had happened with Makoto in these past days, she would keep as a secret, buried deep inside. She said, "This is my husband." "He is." Willow picked up the microphone, ready to introduce George to everyone. But the next moment, her smile froze. She didn't see George, but instead, in the group of men in black, there was a transparent coffin. Chapter 8. Willow froze, and so did every guest in the room. All attention was focused on the coffin. She shouted at the men in black, "What are you doing? This is my wedding. Who let you in? Where's George?" The men in black, undisturbed, bowed deeply and replied, "Miss Lou, please accept our condolences. This is Mr. Wang's final wish." "Wang, Mr. Wang," she murmured. Willow felt like she had been struck by lightning. Numb, like a puppet with no strings, she staggered toward the coffin. When her eyes landed on the familiar face inside, she froze. Her legs wobbled, and her mind spun in confusion. In that moment, all her strength seemed to drain away. She numbly sank to her knees beside the coffin, crying out George's name. "George, this can't be real, right? You're just playing a joke on me, right?" But of course, the corpse offered no response. The face, once so familiar and filled with life, was now empty, cold, and unrecognizable without its characteristic smile. Only an overwhelming indifference. The men in black continued, Mr. Wang seemed to be heartbroken last night and took a large dose of sleeping pills. By the time we arrived, it was already too late. Miss Lu, please accept our deepest condolences. Willow's eyes widened in disbelief. Tears streamed down her face like a broken string of pearls, relentlessly falling onto the coffin. She stared at the familiar face, the same one she had seen every day for the past 3 years, always handsome, gentle, and warm. Just like when she came home to George, she had grown accustomed to George handling everything for her. She had never imagined that the one arriving at the wedding site would be George's corpse. Even in death, was fulfilling the wedding his final wish. It felt as though she had gone mad. In a frenzy, she threw open the coffin lid, her hand trembling as she reached for the body. It can't be real. It must be fake. George loved me. He loved me so much. He wouldn't just leave me like this. She desperately sought any trace of warmth from his body, but there was none, not even a hint of it. Willow sobbed uncontrollably and demanded, "Why? Why didn't you tell me? He left last night. Why didn't you tell me? We were about to get married." The man in black replied, "We tried calling many times, but his phone was off. We also tried other ways to reach you, but we couldn't find you." Miss Lu. Willow's eyes suddenly widened. Last night, she had been with Makoto, completely ignoring her phone, not wanting to be found by anyone. Then, she remembered George's last words before she left for the party. She whispered, "It's my fault. I killed him." If only she hadn't been so eager to meet Makoto. If only she had taken the time to talk to George. Maybe today they would still be the happy couple, not separated by death. The last glimmer of hope in her heart disappeared, leaving only despair. She could no longer lie to herself. It was her betrayal that had led to George's death. Willow. At that moment, Makoto suddenly burst into the room, rushing to Willow's side, holding her tightly in his arms. "I just got the news. Willow, please don't be too sad. Death is irreversible. He's gone, but I'll always be here for you," Makoto said, holding her tightly. The media reporters, in a frenzy, clicked their cameras, capturing the rare moment. At the wedding site, there was only the groom's body, but Willow's so-called ordinary friend unexpectedly appeared. The situation had become so high-profile that many began speculating on the complex relationships between the three. Willow allowed Makoto to hold her. Unable to feel any warmth, she stared blankly at everything around her, her eyes full of despair. "Willow, don't worry. I love you. I'll love you more than he ever did. Let me take care of you from now on," Makoto declared loudly in front of everyone. But Willow didn't react. She couldn't hear him anymore. It wasn't until one of the men in black handed her George's phone that she snapped back to reality. "This is Mr. Wang's only remaining possession," he said. "When we found him, he was still holding onto his phone. There should be something important inside." For Willow, George had always given her unconditional security. His phone had no password, so she opened it without hesitation. When the screen lit up and she opened WeChat, her eyes immediately landed on a pinned contact. She recognized the profile picture. It was Makoto. Why would George have Makoto's WeChat? Chapter 9. A shock ran through Willow's heart. As if she had suddenly woken up, she forcefully pushed Makoto away and opened their chat history. What greeted her were countless explicit screenshots, disorderly images of herself and Makoto in bed together. Willow's face drained of color in an instant. So, George knew. He had always known. Every time she was with Makoto, Makoto would share photos and videos of their moments together with George. Willow frantically scrolled through the messages, realizing that from the day Makoto returned to the country, he had been in contact with George. The last message was from yesterday, the day she had lied to George about going to a birth party. Makoto's message read, "George, you're getting married tomorrow, but so what? Tonight, Willow will still be with me. Tomorrow, the woman lying under you in a wedding dress will be nothing but leftovers from me. If you know what's good for you, transfer the company shares to me, and I'll disappear. Otherwise, you'll be the one to disappear." Willow's hand trembled as she covered her mouth, staring in disbelief at Makoto. She couldn't believe the kind and gentle first love standing before her had been hiding such a cruel side all along. George had never replied to Makoto, but now, with this final provocation, he had finally responded. Willow collapsed to the ground, clutching her chest, as though her heart was being torn apart by those words. She thought she could handle everything, that she could keep her secrets from George. She had planned to have a child with Makoto, and then never see him again, hoping she could settle down with George as his loyal wife, a good mother. But George had known all along. He knew about the child. He knew everything that had happened between her and Makoto. She squeezed the phone so hard her fingers ached, the full weight of her self-destruction crashing down on her. She had killed their happiness, all for the men she couldn't forget, the one she had betrayed George for. The man in black spoke calmly. "Miss Lu, you should have realized by now. Mr. Wang had severe depression. As someone close to him, you should have intervened sooner. You couldn't leave him alone. The consequences are unimaginable. If only last night." He paused, His words a blade cutting deep into Willow's already broken heart. He handed her a thick stack of medical records. Willow, like a walking corpse, leafed through the records. She realized that from the moment she agreed to have a child with Makoto, George had already been suffering, but he had endured. He had endured Makoto's provocations, endured her lies. Even when he died, he was still thinking about their wedding. What had she done? The day before their wedding, she was with Makoto until late into the night, planning to use a surgical procedure to cover up her lies. She had woven one beautiful lie after another, pushing George deeper into the abyss with every deceit. Makoto's presence, her own desires, had made her forget about the men who loved her to the core. It turned out that the document George had been holding that day was not a business contract, but his diagnosis report. Even in their final conversation, she had lied to him. Willow had never noticed it, not once. After Makoto returned to the country, her heart had left George completely. How could she have seen the signs of George's suffering? She grabbed Makoto by the collar, her voice breaking as she demanded, "I promised you. Why did you have to push him? Why?" She couldn't believe the men she had once been willing to have a child with would do something so cruel, driving George to death. She screamed, "Was it the company shares? Is that what you wanted?" Makoto's eyes showed a fleeting moment of panic before he replied, "Willow, what good are the shares to me? I don't have long to live, but I love you. Even if I'm about to die, I don't want to see you become someone else's bride. You are mine, and only mine." Willow bit her lip and said, "But you killed him." She collapsed to the ground, silent tears falling onto the coffin. The world around her was engulfed in darkness, and there was no light left to guide her. Chapter 10. What was supposed to be a joyful wedding, the pinnacle of Willow's life, had turned into a tragic end. Willow, as George's widow, presided over the funeral. That once lively face was now lost forever, and his smile was frozen on the cold tombstone. Willow was utterly exhausted. After all the guests had left, she stood alone before the tombstone, staring blankly at it. Heavy rain poured down, and the wind whipped the rain against Willow's face, stinging her skin. Kneeling before the cold tombstone, her face pale, drained of color, she looked so fragile that no one dared to approach her in comfort. It was obvious to all that Willow had lost her one true love, forever lost. No chance of recovery. "George, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Willow gently stroked the tombstone but lacked the courage to come closer. She had personally buried the love of her life, with no room for regret. Makoto spoke from behind her. "Willow, let's go. Once someone is gone, they can't come back." He stood behind her with an umbrella, coughing incessantly as the wind blew. Willow choked back tears. "You shouldn't have provoked him, insulted him, threatened him." Her voice carried an air of desolation, but it wasn't as harsh as it had been during the wedding. After all, he was her first love, and his life was almost over. George was already gone. No amount of blaming, even if she killed Makoto, could change anything now. Makoto replied, "I only love you too much." There was no sadness in his voice, only an unsettling sense of triumph. He continued, "You know, I've never liked sharing. You are the love of my life, and I couldn't bear to give you to anyone else." Makoto reached out and embraced Willow tightly. But the next moment, Willow forcefully pushed him away. She said, "I'll take you to the hospital. Your body can't handle being outside for too long." Makoto didn't argue. He didn't dare press her for affection at that moment. After making sure he was settled at the hospital, Willow didn't linger. As she turned to leave, Makoto grabbed her arm. He said, "Since I've been ill, I've become afraid of being alone. I don't want to stay here. I'm just wasting my life away." Willow understood what he meant. She replied, "I'm not in the mood to accompany you. You should stay in the hospital." She rejected him once more and turned to leave. After her figure disappeared, a small nurse quietly entered the room, looking around before saying, "Mr. Ito, I'm here to give you your injection." But in the next moment, a smug smile spread across Makoto's face. He pulled the nurse into his arms and said, "You're giving me the injection, but isn't it my turn to give you one today?" Willow had arranged for Makoto to be in a private ward where he could do whatever he wanted. Back when he was hospitalized, he'd spent his time flirting with this nurse. In some ways, Makoto really was a master at manipulation. The nurse playfully said, "You're such a tease, making me wear these stockings. They're so cold." She leaned into Makoto's embrace, hesitant but still playing along, making his heart race with desire. In the days when Willow was busy handling George's funeral, Makoto couldn't stay still. He'd been holding in his frustrations for so long, and now he was ready to vent. He said, "I don't care. Willow hasn't listened to me these days. I don't like women who don't listen. You're different. I can do whatever I want with you." Makoto's hands roamed over the nurse, making her gasp and sigh. She teased, "You're such a jerk. Lose such a beautiful woman. And so many men are lining up to chase after her. Yet you don't even cherish her." Makoto laughed, saying, "That's her problem. It has nothing to do with me. I've only ever loved you." As for being with Willow, it was all for her money. The nurse was curious. "Then why did you leave her back then? Willow loved you so much." Makoto smiled broadly, Clearly reminiscing, he said, "That was unavoidable. The Liu family's influence was too great. A lot of people came after me, and I had to be careful. So, I took the Liu family's 1 million and a scholarship to study abroad. Then I left Willow." The nurse asked, "What about now? Aren't you afraid?" He chuckled, saying, "Now, I'm afraid of not having money. Willow's about to carry my child. Once she's pregnant, the Liu family will have to acknowledge it, whether they like it or not. Don't think 1 million is enough. Even if they offer me 10 million or half of their assets, then maybe I'll consider leaving." Makoto's smile grew wider as he said, "Then I'll run away with you." The room filled with sensual sounds, and as Willow returned to grab her car keys, she froze in place. Chapter 11. Willow's hand trembled slightly as she gripped the door handle, her face paling even further. Makoto's reckless words from earlier echoed in her ears, each one like a thunderclap. The reason he wanted her to have a child wasn't to honor their past love, nor was it out of any affection for her. It was all for her family's fortune and the company's shares. After the wedding, seeing that Makoto's life was nearing its end, she had refrained from confronting him, but now it seemed that Makoto had been deceiving her from the start. Was he really terminally ill? How could a person supposedly on their deathbed still be thinking about money and running away with someone else? Willow's body tensed. She suddenly remembered the incident at the party, when George had lashed out at Makoto. George was always calm and rational. He would never have acted that way unless he'd been pushed to the brink. Her fist clenched instinctively, her brows knitting together as waves of turmoil surged in her chest. She could no longer hold back. Turning abruptly, she called a taxi and rushed to the location where the party had been held. This place had originally been part of the Liu family's property, so it didn't take much effort to access the surveillance footage. She clearly saw Makoto entering the restroom, talking on the phone, and then George walking in. A few minutes later, Makoto emerged, deliberately waiting for George and taunting him. George, enraged, had struck out. The surveillance footage captured everything, every conversation, the fake diagnosis, and Makoto's abusive words toward George. Recalling George's emotional outburst that night, Willow felt her blood freeze. Her heart pounded like a drum, the sound deafening in her ears. She felt as though something had lodged in her throat, suffocating her, making it difficult to breathe. It was all a lie. The so-called honoring of past love, the idea of being with her in another way, it was all Makoto's shameless deceit. Willow wandered back home, feeling like a walking corpse. Everything in the house remained as it had when George was still alive, but there was no trace of him left anywhere. She curled up on the sofa, clutching her head, tears streaming down her face. "George, I'm so sorry. Please come back." If she could do it all over again, she would cherish George, and she would never have agreed to anything Makoto asked. She and Makoto had together pushed George to his death. She regretted it all the way down to her soul, but unfortunately, there were no second chances in this world. Willow aimlessly walked into the bathroom, cleaned herself up, and then lay in the bathtub. With a single sharp motion, she slit her wrist, whispering, "George, I'll come be with you." Blood slowly seeped from her wrist, and as her consciousness began to fade, memories of her time with George flickered through her mind like a revolving lantern. Once, they had been so happy. If it weren't for Makoto, George would still be alive. They would have had their wedding, they would have had a child, and they would have grown old together. But unfortunately, there were no what-ifs in this world. She murmured softly, "George, everything I owe you, I'll pay with my life." Beep, beep, beep. When Willow regained consciousness, she found herself in a luxurious hospital room, dressed in a hospital gown, and 4 drip attached to her arm. Her parents had arrived, and Makoto was there too. Makoto apologized, saying, "Uncle, Aunt, it's all my fault. I didn't take care of Willow. It's all my fault." His eyes were bloodshot, sitting beside Willow's bed, appearing to be in utter despair, his words coming out in a pitiful, tear-filled confession. Mr. and Mrs. Liu didn't say anything but looked at Willow with heartache. Mr. Liu spoke softly, "You can do whatever you want from now on. Just don't do anything foolish again." Willow stared expressionlessly at the ceiling, her body feeling like a lifeless shell. Her first love, the one who had once filled her life with joy, was now right beside her. Yet she felt no happiness, no warmth. She had betrayed George, and now Makoto was doing the same thing to her. In the end, George had died, and only now did she realize how brutally and mercilessly she had treated him. Makoto spoke, "Willow, don't do anything foolish again. A person can't come back to life. The doctor said my condition is improving. There's still hope for a cure. I won't leave. I'll stay with you forever." Makoto held Willow's hand tightly, his confession deep and earnest. But Willow didn't even glance at him. She simply said, "George is gone. Does that mean your illness is cured?" Chapter 12. Makoto was stunned when he heard Willow's words, unable to respond for a long time. Had he been too hasty, or had Willow discovered something? He said, "Willow, I truly don't know. Maybe it's because our love has touched the heavens. Or maybe George, from the other side, couldn't bear to see you lonely and sent me to accompany you from now on. Whichever it is, since there's hope for survival, I will fight for it, for you, for our child. Child. A sudden shock flashed in Willow's eyes. She asked, "Am I pregnant?" Makoto replied, "Yes." The doctor confirmed it. "You're pregnant with our child." His voice trembled with excitement. With this child, Willow would be firmly in his grasp, and she would never escape. He paused for a moment before continuing. "Willow, death is final. Forget him. He never loved you. From now on, I will take care of you, love you, and our child. Let's get married." Once, Willow had longed for a child with Makoto. Even more so for George to be the father of that child. She had dreamed of George loving their child as much as he loved her. For that dream, she had lied to cover up her relationship with Makoto. Just as Makoto was now using sweet words to mask his true intentions, she no longer understood how Makoto could speak such hypocritical things with the most sincere tone. At that moment, she felt as though she had become George when he was alive. Hearing her lies and seeing the truth from Makoto must have felt the same way, right? The unbearable pain was enough to tear apart even the strongest heart. It was only at this moment that Willow finally understood, the man she had loved was never Makoto, but George. The George she had lost forever, the one she had pushed into the abyss with her own hands. She said, "I want to be alone for a while. Let's talk about this later." Willow turned her face away. Makoto replied, "Willow, don't worry. I will focus on my treatment these days and get better soon. I'll be with you until we grow old, and I'll watch our child grow up." With that promise, Makoto left the room. As soon as he left, a nurse came in to change Willow's dressing. Willow grabbed her arm suddenly, startling the nurse, who asked, "Miss Liu, did I do something wrong?" Willow answered, "No, I need you to help me with something." In the following days, Makoto appeared rarely, but the messages on Willow's phone never stopped. He really was receiving treatment, but not from doctors, he was receiving it from that nurse. Willow had instructed the nurse to record every encounter with Makoto and send the footage to her. Willow watched the appalling footage on her phone, without any emotional reaction. She thought to herself, George must have felt the same way back then. He must have been completely hopeless, just like me. Tears fell in torrents as Willow realized she had made the wrong choice. Her sincere heart had been misplaced, and now, it was too late to take it back. George was gone, and there was no chance for reconciliation. She said, "Officer, hello. Regarding the previous case, I'm willing to testify. Please arrest the real murderer. My husband was forced to death by him." Willow had already received an inquiry from the police, but at that time, there had still been a sliver of hope in her heart. Makoto's time was running out, and even if he had committed a terrible crime, she didn't want him to die in prison. But now, she was fully awake. Since Makoto didn't have a terminal illness, he would have to pay for his actions. Makoto said, "Baby, I've missed you so much. Come here quickly. Willow's been sick these days, and it's driving me crazy." The nurse, slightly displeased, complained, "Hey, be careful. If I get pregnant, won't you just go find another woman?" He laughed. "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. You're not like Willow. She's just a meal ticket. You're my one true love." Makoto pulled the nurse into his arms, ready to indulge in his desires. But before they could go any further, two uniformed police officers burst through the door. "Makoto, right, we've received a report. You're wanted for multiple charges, including attempted murder, contract fraud, and more. Please come with us." The police didn't wait for an explanation and started taking Makoto away. Makoto was stunned. "Who are you people? How dare you arrest me? I'm about to become the son-in-law of the Liu family." Makoto tried to use the Liu family's influence as a threat, but the police officer sneered and said, "The one who reported you is none other than Miss Liu." Chapter 13. Makoto was taken away by the police. On the day of the trial, Willow, dressed in mourning attire, appeared in court to testify. Along with the evidence left behind by George before his death, it was enough to ensure Makoto would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Makoto tried to struggle, loudly revealing that Willow was pregnant, hoping to use it to blackmail her. But Willow was already prepared. The child was gone. This revelation caused a storm of negative comments about the Liu family. Rumors of infidelity, conspiracy to murder her fiancé, and more spread quickly. Willow's reputation plummeted, and various company projects ground to a halt, even starting to shake the foundation of the Liu family. Liu's father returned to the family business, announcing the removal of Willow from all her positions at the company. He began to take control of the group again. But amidst all this turmoil, I couldn't bring myself to care. After faking my death, I left the country and came to a small coastal town near Florence. Through the company's operations, I even adopted a new name, David. I said goodbye to all my past memories and started over. I had once started my own company, but back then, in order to support Willow's career, I sold it. The money from that sale was enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. Now, I could pick up my dream again and become a simple painter. So I chose Florence, a city rich in artistic atmosphere, and opened a small gallery. I didn't seek profit. I just wanted my work to be seen by more people. Going to the beach to feel the warmth of nature was my favorite thing to do. Almost every day, I would take my easel and capture the most beautiful scenes of the day. The scenery remained the same, but my state of mind was ever changing. This light, carefree feeling fascinated me. David, I'm here. I looked up to see a youthful, vibrant figure bursting into my view. She was dressed in white, looking like an ethereal being stepping out from a painting. When I first arrived in Florence, I met Anna, who was studying here. After visiting my gallery, she decided to stay and work part-time for me. She looked at my paintings, unable to stop praising them. They're so beautiful. The same scenery looks different through David's brush. I smiled. In the past, my world had only revolved around Willow. I had long forgotten the things I truly loved. Once I broke free from that life, everything from before seemed so unimportant. Willow, Makoto, they were just passers-by. I had finally learned how to love myself. I no longer lived for anyone else. She said, if this painting were hung in the gallery, I'm sure many people would pay a high price for it. Anna kept praising my work. She believed that with my talent, I could easily make a name for myself in this city, known as the capital of art. If I wanted, I could quickly become the youngest and most outstanding artist in Florence. I replied, it's just a simple hobby. Besides, I'm not chasing fame, and I'm not lacking money. I glanced at my painting, packed up my things, and returned to the gallery. Anna followed me, chattering away. The sunset cast our shadows together, forming a beautiful picture of tranquility and warmth. This was the kind of life I wanted to continue. No deceit, no threats, only me and the career I loved most. Anna said, David, I can help you organize an exhibition in the city to let more people see your talent. I refused, saying, no need. I don't want to be famous. This is good enough. If I held an exhibition and it became a sensation, Willow might find me. That was something I didn't want to happen. Anna pouted, still feeling that David was hiding something. How could a painter not want fame? Back at the gallery, I started cooking. Anna hung up a new painting, and just then, her phone rang. She answered, hello, sis, do you need something? The voice on the other end replied, nothing much. I just ran into some trouble and am feeling down. Can I come to your place to unwind? It was Willow's tired voice from the other end. George probably never expected that Anna and Willow were half-sisters. Anna had taken her adoptive father's surname, and the two sisters had always kept in touch since they were young. Anna replied, of course, you can come. I've met a very talented brother. I'll introduce you to him when you come over. Willow teased, brother, I hope he's not your boyfriend. Anna answered, stop joking. We're not at that point yet. Anna looked at me, busy in the kitchen, and a sweet smile appeared on her lips. David was so handsome and talented. I called, Anna, the food's ready. Come eat. Coming. Sis, I have to go. I'm going to eat now. Anna hung up the phone, but on the other end, Willow froze. She covered her mouth, whispering, This is George's voice. Chapter 14. Willow's pupils trembled, her heart racing as if it were about to leap out of her chest. Rationality told her that George was dead, that she had personally laid him to rest. He was no longer in this world, but the voice on the other end of the phone was too familiar. She could never mistake it. It was George. George was alive. David's cooking was impressive. It was rare to be able to taste domestic dishes in a foreign country, which was one of the reasons Anna insisted on working part-time at David's gallery. Every time she ate a meal prepared by him, she felt like the happiest person in the world. She said, David, another bowl, please. David chuckled. Look at you. Rice even stuck to your nose. Without thinking, David gently wiped the rice grain off Anna's nose. It was a simple gesture, but to Anna, who had never been in a romantic relationship, it made her heart race. This should have been the closest physical interaction between them since they had met. Thinking back to Willow's teasing on the phone, Anna's face turned as red as a ripe apple. She stole a glance at David, who was refilling her bowl, and nervously bit her lip. David was truly handsome, talented, and so gentle. A man like him was rare, and she felt that if she didn't cherish him, she might never find someone like him again. She wondered if she should confess. Did he have feelings for me? David asked. What are you thinking about? As he set the bowl of rice in front of her, Anna, flustered, nearly wanted to disappear into the ground. She quickly lowered her head and started eating, then shyly asked, David, do you have a girlfriend? Her face, red with embarrassment, was practically on fire. David replied, I had one. We were together for 3 years, but in the end, I realized she never loved me. David couldn't help but think of Willow. Now, he could face that past love with calm acceptance. Anna frowned and said, she must be blind. A good man like you is impossible to find even with a lantern. She continued, waving her small fists in frustration. If I saw her, I'd slap her. David only smiled. Without love, what was there to hate? To him, Willow was a passerby, just like the countless people who came and went in his life. There was no need to linger on the past. Moreover, George was dead. He and Willow would never meet again. David sighed and said, "Eat the meat." But Anna cut in. "David, what do you think of me?" David was about to describe the braised pork he had specially made for Anna, but her voice interrupted him. Anna couldn't bear to look up, her eyes glued to her bowl of rice, not daring to meet David's gaze. She was incredibly nervous, but she could also tell that David had once experienced an unhappy relationship. I smiled and said, "You eat a lot." Anna's presence added a touch of light to my previously dull world. She was a pure and adorable girl. I had grown accustomed to her presence, to her chatter, but now, I couldn't bring myself to take that step. Once, I had loved Willow so deeply, willing to give up everything for her. I thought love could overcome all obstacles, but in the end, I realized that everything had been one-sided. I couldn't take that risk again. Anna raised her head, her eyes full of longing as she looked at me. "I can actually eat very little. I'm easy to take care of," I interrupted. "Eat your food." I picked up my bowl, not continuing the conversation on that topic. Anna breathed a sigh of relief, her lips curling into a smile. At least I hadn't rejected her. To this optimistic girl, that was a good sign. After a simple test of emotions, the atmosphere at the dinner table returned to its usual cheerfulness. Unconsciously, our relationship had progressed a little further. Anna felt that this was fine. Relationships always grew naturally without force. After dinner, Anna began to clean up the table and received a message from Willow, saying she would be arriving in Florence the next day. Anna muttered to herself in confusion. "Strange. I thought she said she would come in a few days." I said, "A friend's coming, no problem. I'll give you a few days off. We can manage here. Traveling abroad isn't easy, so take your friend out and show her around." Anna replied, "David, she's not just a friend. She's my sister. She came here to get away from some emotional troubles. She's also from a city, like you." Anna looked at me. When a city was mentioned, I froze for a moment. A fleeting look of unease crossed my eyes. Chapter 15. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I checked some news from back home. Lou Group's beautiful CEO Willow suspected of premarital infidelity, having wild nights with her first boyfriend. Lou Group CEO Willow's first love involved in fraud and murder, currently in police custody. Phoenixman desperately seeking forgiveness. Willow to testify in court. A series of headlines caused a stir back home. I read through them quietly, somewhat surprised. When I had first sent the evidence of Makoto's crimes to a friend, I expected it to cause a bit of a commotion, but I hadn't expected Willow to testify in court. Aside from that, I felt no emotion. I continued to live my peaceful life, with no Willow, no worries, no scandals. When someone finds themselves in this kind of situation, it's strangely liberating. Just like how I felt at that moment, thinking back on the past, I no longer felt love or hatred, only a calm emptiness. I even thought that if I were to meet Willow again, I'd be able to face her with ease. Anna. Over here. Anna met Willow at the airport. Willow looked somewhat haggard, no longer the radiant figure she once was. Anna rarely kept up with domestic news, and with her minimal contact with the Liu family, she had no idea what had been going on with Willow recently. "Are you all right?" Anna asked. "I'm fine," Willow replied, forcing a smile. "Just went through some things, but it's all behind me now." Seeing her smile, Anna didn't ask further but instead began talking about the amusing things she had experienced since coming to Florence. The two sisters quickly fell into a lively conversation. Anna couldn't help but mention David. "Sis, I think I might be in love," she said. "I've never met a man as wonderful as him." Willow asked, "You mean that David?" When the name was mentioned, Willow felt an inexplicable jolt in her heart. Yes, that's him," Anna replied excitedly. "To me, he's a genius. He's going to shine." Anna animatedly recounted her experiences with David, and Willow's heart skipped a beat. "The reason she came to Florence was precisely for David." "Was the man you were talking to on the phone earlier David?" Willow asked. "Yes, that was him. After class, I make time to work part-time at his gallery." "Sis, I have to tell you, his cooking is just heavenly." Anna grinned. "Every time, I end up eating so much." Anna beamed, her thoughts consumed by David's face. Before Willow could respond, Anna took out her phone and began showing Willow pictures of David's paintings. When they came across one in particular, Willow froze. The painting depicted a young girl sitting on a swing, bathed in the summer sunlight. Her profile was kissed by the golden light, her hair flowing in the breeze. A serene and beautiful image, but the girl's face was completely different from Anna's. Willow's heart raced. She recognized the location in the painting. It was the place where she and George had their first date. Though she hadn't confirmed yet that David was George, her heart was already in turmoil. In the 3 years they had been together, she had never known that George possessed such talent. She had never paid attention to his hobbies. As a girlfriend and fiancé, She had failed terribly. She had taken everything George had given her for granted, even arrogantly believing that he would accept her and Makoto's child without a second thought. She was so terribly wrong. She had pushed this man, who loved her so deeply, into the abyss. Tears welled up in her eyes, and Willow's composure began to crack. Anna, noticing something was off, asked, "Sis, are you all right? Was it the painting that brought up painful memories?" Anna could tell that Willow was troubled, but since she wasn't speaking about it, Anna didn't press further. Willow wiped her tears and said, "I'm fine." After a moment, she added, "Anna, do you have a photo of David?" Anna replied, "He's a bit strange. His paintings are worth a lot, but he never sells them, and he doesn't like having his picture taken. But I've taken a few sneaky shots of his back." Anna happily pulled up the photos on her phone to show Willow. There were no photos of David's face, just shots of his back. But even just seeing his back made Willow's pupils dilate. Could David really be George? Was he still alive? Chapter 16. Willow's emotions suddenly became agitated. She grabbed Anna's hand and asked, "Anna, can I meet him?" Whether it was true or not, she needed to see David to confirm everything. Anna looked at Willow with some hesitation. "Sis, I don't think that's possible. He's been through a lot, very deep emotional scars. He rarely interacts with strangers." Anna still remembered the first time she met David. Back then, there was always a faint sadness and indifference in his eyes. Apart from painting, it seemed he had no interest in anything or anyone. She had to persist before he finally agreed to let her work part-time at the gallery. Other than that, very few people spoke to him. Anna continued, "Ugh, that woman was really something. A man like David. You could search the world over and never find anyone better." But she didn't appreciate him. He loved his ex-girlfriend with all his heart. They were about to get married, but that woman's mind was stuck on her first love, causing him to leave and move far away. How can there be such shameless women in the world? Anna ranted, her face flushed with anger. But Willow's face turned from red to pale, unsure of how to respond. "If I ever meet the woman who hurt David, I'll slap her." Stuck on her first love? Fine. Go back to him. Why ruin someone like David? Shameless. Don't you agree, sis? Anna fumed, condemning the woman she had never met, while Willow sat frozen, not knowing how to respond. Isn't it ironic? Only after losing something do we realize its value. Willow pleaded. "Anna, please. I just want to meet him. Please, let me." Willow's tone was so desperate that Anna had never seen her like this before. Could it be that David and her sister knew each other? Anna knew that David came to Florence to forget the past and start over. She couldn't just agree to this on a whim. She replied, "Sis, I can't promise you that, but I can ask him for you. Just rest for a few days, okay?" "All right, okay." Seeing Anna's reluctance, Willow didn't press the issue any further. After Anna dropped Willow off at the hotel, she called David. "David, do you have time in the next few days?" David replied, "What's up?" Anna was straightforward. "My sister just arrived, and I showed her your paintings. She seems very interested and wants to meet you. I don't know if you have time, though." George furrowed his brows. "What's your sister's name?" Anna answered carefully. "We're half-sisters. Her name is Willow. You should have heard of her. She's the CEO of Lu Group, from a city." Anna hesitantly mentioned Willow's name, and David on the other end was silent for a long time. Fate was truly strange. He never imagined that Anna would be Willow's sister. "David," Anna called. David answered, "Yeah, I'm here." He chuckled. "Of course, we'll treat your sister well. She's welcome here." After hanging up, Anna rolled around in bed, grinning from ear to ear. She clearly heard what David said, "We'll treat her well." That sounded like their relationship had moved to the next level. George's thoughts were simple. It wasn't that he wanted to see Willow, but rather, he needed to prove to himself that he no longer had any feelings for her. He had no nostalgia for the past 3 years, no memories, no feelings. What was the point of seeing each other? A few days later, Anna brought Willow to David's gallery. When Willow saw George again, the tears welled up in her eyes and spilled over. She covered her mouth and sobbed uncontrollably. "George, is it really you? George, you didn't die. You really didn't die." Anna was shocked by Willow's reaction and asked, "Sis, what are you talking about? Did you mistake him for someone else?" Anna felt a sudden panic. Bringing Willow here to meet David seemed like a mistake. "No, I didn't mistake him. I would never be wrong," Willow shouted, her voice shaking. "You're George, my husband, George." Willow, overwhelmed with emotion, ran toward David, trying to embrace him. David, however, furrowed his brow, stepped aside slightly, and extended his hand. His voice was calm but distant. "Miss Lu, hello. It's nice to meet you. My name is David." Chapter 17. Willow stood frozen in place, unable to recover from the shock. The man in front of her, he looked exactly like her George. This couldn't be David. No, it had to be George. Anna quickly grabbed Willow, who was losing control of her emotions, and said, "Sis, You're mistaken. He's not George. His name is David. You can't act like this, it's so rude. Since yesterday, Anna had sensed something was off with Willow, but she never imagined that seeing David would cause such an extreme reaction. David stepped back a little, increasing the distance between himself and Willow. Miss Lu, this is our first meeting. Your actions are making me feel uncomfortable. Willow's gaze remained fixed on David, her emotions a whirlwind of frustration, regret, guilt, and a glimmer of joy at the thought of finding him again. Willow sighed deeply, finally speaking. I'm sorry, I lost my composure. You look exactly like an old friend of mine. It wasn't just the resemblance. Everything about him, his demeanor, his manner of speaking, was the same. In her heart, Willow was certain the man before her was George. If George wasn't dead, then God had given her a second chance. She was going to redeem herself for the mistakes she had made in the past. She wanted George back in her life. David nodded lightly. It's all right. He had gotten used to life here, used to being alone. Even facing Willow again, he remained composed. The three of them sat down for a meal, and throughout, Willow kept mentioning her past with George. David listened to her stories, occasionally responding, but he didn't offer much in terms of opinions. More often, he found himself enjoying the simple pleasure of hearing Anna talk about her school and daily life. She had become one of the few joys in his otherwise quiet existence. Willow spoke softly. We were truly happy once. I ruined everything. I want to spend the rest of my life making up for it. Her eyes, filled with tears, looked at David. David smiled slightly, replying, Miss Lu, you've mistaken me for someone else. I'm not him, and I don't want to be anyone's replacement. I've always believed that only true sincerity can be reciprocated with sincerity. His eyes involuntarily shifted toward Anna, and she, in turn, looked at him. Their gazes met, and love filled the space between them. At that moment, David had finally proven to himself that Willow was just a passing chapter in his life. Even if they met again, he was able to face it with calmness. This meant he was ready to love Anna. If he didn't love someone, he would cut ties cleanly, with no regrets. And if he loved, it would be open and unreserved, with no hesitation. Anna's face flushed slightly. Willow, observing the two of them, felt like an outsider, unable to enter their world. George's heart no longer belonged to her. It was as if all the love he had for her had vanished. Later that afternoon, the three of them went out together, showing Willow the beautiful sights of Florence. On the golden beach, David, in front of Willow, confessed his love to Anna. He said, I once thought my world would remain dark, that I would be prepared to live a life of loneliness, until I met you. If it weren't for you, I think this world would have remained dark. You made me believe in the existence of light and showed me what love looks like. David's voice was low and sincere, just like his commitment to love, always straightforward and unflinching. Anna covered her mouth, tears of happiness welling up in her eyes. I'm willing. As the sun set over the golden beach, they embraced tightly, their love radiant and full of happiness. Willow stood there, motionless, her eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. Her heart felt like it was going to explode. She had been the one to push George away. She was certain now, David was George, the man she had once deeply loved. From then on, Anna immersed herself in the bliss of loving David. Scenes that were once so familiar to Willow now played out before her, like an unspoken reminder of the happiness she had lost. What was once within reach was now a luxury. Finally, Willow could no longer bear it. In front of Anna, she flung herself at David, embracing him tightly. George, I know you're my George. Please, please come back to me. Don't torment me anymore. Please. Chapter 18. Before Anna could speak, David took the initiative to push her aside and said firmly, Willow, you're mistaken again. Wake up. I'm David, not George, and right now, I'm your sister's boyfriend. Please respect that. He took Anna's hand, expressing his stance clearly with a firm and unwavering gaze. Anna spoke softly but decisively. Sis, please stay away from my boyfriend in the future. She held his hand tightly, equally resolute in her choice. Willow's voice broke as she sobbed. Anna, you don't understand. He's not David. He's George. We were together for 3 years. On our wedding day, he chose to fake his death and left me to come to Florence. He's not David. Don't you get it? Tears streamed down her face as she cried, feeling that she had already paid the price for her mistakes. In the past, she had lied repeatedly, sneaking around with Makoto while George had been by her side. And now, David and Anna were here, living happily before her eyes. In that moment, she felt the same hopelessness George must have once felt. All the lies she had thrown at him now falling back on her heart. She was pierced by the same arrows that once struck him, and she could feel the pain in every fiber of her being. It was as if her soul had been shattered. She knelt before David, pleading desperately, George, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please, come back with me. Let's be together again. Please. I know you're still angry with me. I sent Makoto to prison. I let go of the child who should never have existed. From now on, my world will only have you in it. Without you, I can't live. Willow wept uncontrollably, resembling a lost soul, her cries echoing in the room. David, who had been silently observing, showed a fleeting look of complexity in his eyes, but it vanished quickly. He reached out and helped Willow to her feet. He spoke gently but firmly. "Miss Lou, I think you've really misunderstood. I'm not George. He's gone, isn't he? I can see that you truly loved him, but the dead cannot return. What's past is past. There's no point in dwelling on it." David's gaze softened as it turned toward Anna, his voice quiet and tender as he spoke. "The true meaning of love is to cherish the person in front of you." Anna, too, tried to comfort her sister. "Sis, you're really mistaken. Please, just stop. This isn't the way." Anna couldn't believe the absurdity of it all. She thought her sister was just deeply mourning her deceased husband and had mistaken David for him. Willow stood up, numb, as if her soul had left her body. She stared at David, her eyes filled with a cold determination. "Fine, you're not him. Right, then I'll treat you as if you're not him." With a crazed look in her eyes, she picked up a dinner knife from the table and, in front of David, plunged it into her own chest. Anna and David watched in shock as Willow's body slowly crumpled to the ground. Even as her eyes began to close, she continued to stare at David, hoping to find some trace of affection in his eyes. But her hopes were crushed. David, or rather George, no longer had any trace of her in his heart. Willow was rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, the medical staff managed to save her in time. Though her mental state remained deeply concerning, the doctors diagnosed her with severe depression and suicidal tendencies. Anna notified the Lou family, and Willow was brought back to a city from Florence. Anna had hoped that David would come to see her off, but she never saw him until the plane took off. The day after Willow left Florence, David, after much deliberation, finally told Anna the whole truth about his past. Anna, shocked and with her mouth agape, asked, "So, the woman you were with for 3 years, that was my sister, Willow?" Anna stared at David, her eyes wide with disbelief. She felt like her mind was going to explode. "Is all of this really true?" David replied sincerely, "I couldn't keep this from you like she did. I want to love you openly and honestly, not while still thinking of someone else. I don't like the feeling of deceiving others. It's wrong. If I choose to love, I want to do it with a clear heart. I didn't tell you before because I wasn't sure if I'd still feel anything for her. But after spending this time with you, I realized that she's already dead to me. She no longer has a place in my heart." David looked at Anna with deep affection, not hiding anything anymore. As her boyfriend, he didn't want to keep secrets. As for whether Anna would choose to continue their relationship or leave him, he would accept either decision with calmness. Chapter 19. Anna was stunned for quite a while, unable to process the truth. David, sensing her silence, grew anxious. He didn't know what was going on in her mind or what her decision would be. But seeing how nervous David was, Anna couldn't help but laugh. She said, "David, you're nervous about me." She leaned closer to him, smiling playfully with a hint of pride. David responded, "A little." Anna smiled, her eyes full of affection, and said, "I don't care who you were before. All I know is that you're David now. My David, the one I love most." Before David could react, Anna kissed him, and in that moment, love enveloped them both. David finally realized that he had found the right person. In the hospital room, Willow lay motionless, staring at the ceiling, feeling as though everything that had happened in Florence had been a dream. Her assistant spoke carefully. "Miss Lou, we've confirmed it. The man is named David, not Mr. Wong. When Mr. Wong passed, we compared DNA records, and everything matched. Mr. Wong is really gone. Please accept our condolences." Willow muttered under her breath. No, David is George. He must be." Even though there was no evidence, no reasoning behind it, she stubbornly believed that David was George. But George was still angry with her, still blaming her, unwilling to give her a chance. Biting her lip, she said to herself, "He can't leave me without my permission. No one can separate us." Her assistant looked at Willow, who seemed like she was losing her mind, unsure of how to comfort her. The truth was clear. David was David, and had no relation to George, but Willow refused to accept it. She was determined to keep David by her side, even if there was no justification. Just then, a voice interrupted her thoughts. "Willow, how long are you going to keep this up?" Lou mother entered the room, looking at her once proud daughter now reduced to this state. Both saddened and angry, Willow cried out, "Mom, I didn't die. He didn't die. He's still alive, but he just won't forgive me. I have a way. I know I can make him come back to me. I know I was wrong, but he still loves me. He'll forgive me." Slap. The sharp sound of a slap echoed through the room as Lou mother slapped Willow across the face. She scolded, "Enough. Look at what you've become. Where were you when George passed away? What were you thinking when you were with Makoto? I've told you 100 times, Makoto is no good. You got pregnant with his child behind George's back. Don't tell me David is George. Even if he were, do you really think he'd forgive you? Which man could forgive something like that?" Lu Mother's voice was loud and accusatory. Willow's lips trembled, and for a moment, she seemed drained of all energy, sitting in a daze on the hospital bed. When George died, she had thought of following him. To prove that David was George, she was even willing to risk her life, testing the waters for even the faintest possibility. Lu Mother continued, "You need to reflect on yourself. David is now your sister's boyfriend. Don't bother them anymore. Understand?" With those final words, Lu Mother turned and left, leaving Willow alone in the empty room. From then on, Willow seemed to have lost her soul. She spent her days in a haze, abandoning her work, abandoning everything, and returned to the home she had once shared with George. The house was exactly the way George had left it, but she could no longer find any trace of him. It was as though he had never been in her life, and she sank deeper into sorrow, unable to escape the abyss. One day, she received an invitation from Anna. David and Anna were getting married. The photo showed Anna in a radiant wedding dress, and David was dressed in a suit, looking just like she remembered. At that moment, Willow could no longer tell whether George was still alive or had truly left her forever. Anna messaged her, "Sis, will you come to our wedding?" Willow smiled bitterly, unsure of how to respond. Had she let go? If David truly was George, would she still choose to let go? There was no answer in her heart, but she knew that, no matter what, she wanted to close this emotion of her life, even if it wasn't a perfect ending. She replied, "I'll definitely come." Chapter 20. Willow sat in the empty room, holding a photo of herself and George from the time they were together. The happiness that once seemed so close, so within reach, now felt like a distant memory. Now, all that remained in the empty room was herself. There was no familiar laughter, no George who used to thoughtfully prepare everything for her. He had chosen to fake his death and escape, while Makoto had only been after her money, never truly loving her. No one in this world would love her like George had. No one would ever care for her as he did. When she heard the news that he and Anna were getting married, Willow broke down in tears. She knew she no longer had the right to love anyone, let alone stand by George's side with a clear conscience. Her mother was right, everything was her fault. Everything was the result of her own wrongdoings. Anna, unlike Willow, believed that the most precious things should be given to the most important people at the most beautiful moments. To reassure David, Anna had moved in with him. She no longer stayed out late, partying till dawn. She openly introduced David to all her friends. She shared everything with him, with no secrets, and no hesitation. David, however, had told her more than once, "You don't have to do all this. I'm not that petty of a man." He could see that Anna just wanted to make him feel secure, but he was worried she was wearing herself out. Anna replied, "It's not about being petty. Life is short, and I don't want to waste time on insignificant people. I want to give my time to the most important person." Like any newlywed couple, they enjoyed the simple joys of starting their life together. David had fully adjusted to life with Anna, and it felt so different from his time with Willow. With Willow, he had always been the one to give, without limits, but she only took. His unconditional giving had only led Willow to take more without ever considering his needs. Looking back now, he realized it wasn't just Willow's fault, it was also his for enabling her behavior. From the moment Makoto had returned to Japan, his feelings for Willow had vanished. Once love was gone, indifference followed, and that's when everything had gone wrong. One day, Anna asked David, "I invited my sister to our wedding. You don't mind, right?" David replied, "Of course not." When he spoke about it, there was no emotion in his voice. Willow was just Anna's sister, nothing more. He had no reason to dwell on the past. He had long since come to terms with everything. Now, the only thing he was looking forward to was their wedding. Although it was being held abroad, they still followed all the necessary steps. They picked out their outfits together, choosing something special for the occasion. This time, he had opted for a high-end black suit, instead of something ordinary. Anna's wedding dress was personally designed by a renowned designer. When she put it on, she looked like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. They had their wedding photos taken, and Anna shared them on her social media. David did the same. When Willow saw the happy couple in the pictures, her heart was filled with a complex mix of emotions. She, too, had once eagerly awaited her wedding with George, but before their wedding could even begin, they had never taken a single wedding photo together. At that time, she had been too busy trying to have a child with Makoto, completely forgetting about such matters. Now, looking back, all she could feel was regret, endless regret. She suddenly recalled the day they were choosing wedding dresses. Had George felt as disappointed as she did, with his heart full of sorrow? How laughable, how utterly ridiculous. She should have realized long ago that it was her fault, but now it was too late. George was standing beside someone else, and in his eyes, there was no longer any trace of their past together. As the wedding photos were shared, the couple received numerous well wishes from friends. Friends commented, "Anna looks so beautiful. David is so lucky. The goddess is getting married, even though the groom isn't me." I'll still shed a tear of happiless for her. My goddess, you must be happy. Losing to a man like that, I'll die content. David read these comments with a smile, treating them as mere jokes, but one anonymous message left him feeling uneasy. It was a short message, with only one line. I can ruin you once, and I can ruin you again. Chapter 21. The message was filled with a chilling sense of malice, and David couldn't help but frown as he opened the message. It was from a new account, with no profile details. David, what's wrong? Anna asked. Noticing his sudden change in demeanor, David responded, it's nothing, just a little uneasy. I don't know this person, but... He trailed off, shaking his head as if to dismiss the thought. It's fine, really. He gestured for Anna to stay calm, no matter what. Nothing and no one could deter his love for her, nor could they stop their wedding. Their wedding was set to take place at the most luxurious hotel in Florence, a place where luxury and dreams intertwined. The brilliant lights illuminated everything in a golden glow, and the dome above was adorned with vibrant classical murals. Giant crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, shining like stars fallen to earth. The red carpet stretched from the entrance all the way to the altar. On either side, towering walls of white lilies and vivid red roses were artfully arranged, filling the air with a sweet, intoxicating fragrance. Above, silver star-shaped lights twinkled, reflecting the radiance of the crystal chandeliers. The hotel had been chosen by the couple themselves, and every detail had been carefully planned and designed. When the guests saw the decor, they couldn't help but marvel. This was a wedding that every woman dreams of. The guests, a mix of townspeople and Anna's friends and mentors, were in high spirits. Willow was among them, watching everything unfold in front of her, her heart heavy with mixed emotions. This was what a wedding was supposed to be. Before her wedding with George, everything had been arranged by a company. They didn't need to worry about the details, they only had to show up. Compared to this perfectly orchestrated wedding, it seemed like a world apart. Willow was momentarily lost, unsure how to face all of this. Anna, you're here, Anna said, approaching Willow. David stood beside her, offering a smile as a greeting. Willow instinctively glanced at David, and her eyes welled with tears. She had thought she would be able to face this situation calmly, but now, she realized how deeply she still loved George. Congratulations, you look beautiful, Willow said, her voice shaky. Anna smiled brightly. Of course, David and we handled everything ourselves. He's so thoughtful. Every little detail was taken care of by him. Anna clung to David's arm, looking as happy as a princess from a fairy tale. David gently patted her head. For the one I love, it has to be the best. You two catch up. I'll go check if anything was missed before the wedding begins. Willow watched David walk away, her heart filled with complicated emotions. This affection, this tenderness, she had once had it all, and now it was gone. Willow, I hope you can bless us, Anna said, her gaze earnest. Willow forced a smile, her heart breaking with each word. Bless you. Of course. You two will definitely be very happy. Her words felt like they were tearing her apart. There was no way to describe the emotions welling up inside her. It felt like a volcano on the verge of eruption. Anna squeezed her hand gently. I hope you can be happy too. She didn't intend to tell Willow the truth. There was no need to. David had let go of the past, facing everything with calm acceptance, and Anna hoped Willow would also stop clinging to the past, letting go of the impossible future she was hoping for. This would be better for her, and for David. Willow didn't know how to respond. The word happiness once seemed so close, especially in the days when George was by her side. Those were the happiest moments of her life. But now, George was gone, and with him, the happiness had disappeared. She no longer deserved happiness. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Happy wedding. Willow wrapped Anna in a hug, her heart silently whispering, my happiness. I buried it with my own hands. Chapter 22. The strains of the wedding march echoed throughout the venue, and the clock struck, signaling the moment. Hundreds of white doves took flight as the door to the stage slowly opened. Willow sat in the audience, her gaze fixed on the figure stepping onto the stage. David, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, walked steadily toward the center of the stage. His steps were sure, and his eyes gleamed with happiness. Willow looked up at the familiar face, a small, irrational hope still lingering in her heart. She bit her lip lightly. Just one glance, just one moment where David would look at her, and she would destroy this wedding, running away with George. She still believed, deep down, that David was George, but as David walked up to the stage, he never once glanced her way. His eyes were fixed only on Anna, the bride, walking through the doors. The sound of applause filled the air as the guests showered their well wishes upon the couple. Willow felt as though she couldn't breathe. The man she loved was marrying someone else, and she wasn't the bride. Her heart shattered as she watched the scene before her. The sensation of being torn apart was impossible to describe. She gritted her teeth, trying desperately to control the flood of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Then, a familiar voice broke through her internal turmoil. He really knows how to hide, doesn't he? All the way here, and you're still holding on. Huh? Still haven't let go. Willow turned around sharply, and her eyes locked with those of the person she never thought she'd see again. Makoto. Her voice trembled with shock and anger. She never imagined she would run into him here, of all places. You're not, she stammered, disbelief still clouding her mind. Makoto snarled, his voice low with fury. I should be rotting in a cell, all because of you, but I got lucky. I have an illness, a terminal one, and now I'm out on medical parole. After Willow had sent him to prison, Makoto had indeed been diagnosed with a terminal illness. His fate had taken a cruel turn, and now his hatred consumed him entirely. He had once planned to have a child with Willow, to seize the Liu family fortune, but now, all he wanted was revenge. Why had he been the one to fall so low? Why did Willow still get to live? Why was George able to find happiness? All of it should have been his. The officiant raised the microphone and asked loudly, David, do you take Miss Anna as your lawful wife? Willow's heart jumped to her throat as she watched David slip the wedding ring onto Anna's finger. It felt as though her heart had stopped beating. In that moment, her vision narrowed. There was no longer any Makoto, no one else in the room, only David. She stood up, instinctively ready to shout the words she had been holding onto for so long. But before she could speak, Makoto covered her mouth with one hand, and with the other, he thrust a knife straight into her abdomen. Blood immediately soaked her wedding dress, and Willow collapsed to the cold ground, the world around her spinning. The screams from the guests pierced the air, and that's when I realized Makoto was there. A wave of disbelief swept over me. I couldn't believe he had come all the way here. Makoto laughed maniacally, his voice ringing through the room. I knew it. You're George. The hint of surprise in my expression didn't go unnoticed by Makoto. He charged toward me, his knife gleaming in the light. I froze for a second, shocked by his madness, but as I snapped out of my stupor, I saw the knife wasn't aimed at me, it struck Anna. Security rushed forward and subdued Makoto, holding him down with all their might. But he didn't stop laughing, his eyes wild with fury. Ha ha. George, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve her. Willow is going to die, and this woman too. You can only save one. Who will you choose? Ha. Makoto's crazed laughter echoed through the wedding hall. He had blamed all his misfortune on Willow and me. If only I had stepped aside earlier, he wouldn't have resorted to this drastic act, recording his and Willow's scandal to provoke me. If Willow hadn't testified against him, he would still be free, instead of rotting in prison. He laughed again, his voice grating on my nerves. Choose, George, choose, and you'll regret it for the rest of your life. His maniacal laughter reverberated through the entire venue. Chapter 23. As Willow lay in the pool of her own blood, she finally realized the truth. David was George. Makoto's behavior revealed everything. Her George was still alive. He was really still alive. There was still a chance for them. That fleeting thought passed through Willow's mind as she stared at David through tear-filled eyes. But the next moment, I rushed out of the hotel, holding the injured Anna in my arms. As I passed by Willow, I didn't even glance at her. Makoto didn't expect me to make such a choice, but at least his revenge was successful. It wasn't just him who had lost everything. Willow had lost too. He laughed maniacally. Ha ha ha. Willow, you lost. Ha ha ha. We're both failures. In the midst of Makoto's manic laughter, Willow closed her eyes in despair. When she opened them again, she saw a face she knew better than her own, sitting beside her bed, watching her. It was me. Her emotions were overwhelming as she spoke. George. I knew it. I knew you wouldn't leave me. I was wrong. I'm really wrong. Forgive me. Can we start over? Willow sat up, her eyes filled with tears, looking at me. That familiar face felt both familiar and strange at the same time. She reached out her hand to embrace me, but I subtly pulled away, not allowing her to touch me. I spoke calmly. Willow, there are some things we need to clear up. I really did love you once. I was willing to give up my career, give up everything, even my life, for you. But over time, I realized that the person you loved wasn't really me. If someone else did the same things for you, you would have acted the same. It's a habit, not love. That's why you chose Makoto over me. Why you ignored everything else. I spoke quietly, determined. I had already decided to be with Anna. In our future together, we would inevitably have to face Willow. Rather than leaving things unclear, it was better to put everything on the table now. From the moment I chose to fake my death, if you still had even the slightest bit of feelings for me, you would have noticed something was wrong. Something was different, but you chose to ignore it. You knew, better than anyone, that you didn't want me at that time. You wanted Makoto. Willow's eyes reddened once again. The truth hurt. Makoto was now gone, and Willow's excuses were hollow. She choked on her words. I was just tricked by him. I only pitied him. He said he was dying. Her defense was weak, almost laughable. I shook my head. But after I faked my death, you didn't blame Makoto, did you? What were you thinking at that time? You were thinking more about how to face Makoto, how to calm your guilt toward me, weren't you? If you had no feelings for him, no matter what he said or did, you wouldn't have reacted this way. You wouldn't have wanted to have a child with him and abandoned your fiancé. The way you ignored me showed me everything I needed to know. But you still don't understand your own heart, do you, Willow? Both Willow and Makoto had become so deeply entangled in their own lies and illusions that they had completely lost sight of their true feelings. I stood up and said, Willow, we're done. The moment I faked my death, it was over. So, I hope that from now on, we can face each other with clear hearts. The person I love is Anna, not you, and I don't hate you. Everyone has the right to choose. Willow lay on the hospital bed, staring at my retreating figure, and she must have known that we had reached the end of the road. As I opened the door, her voice reached me faintly. I'm sorry. I turned back briefly and replied, it's all right. Life is full of these moments. I smiled and left, not looking back. Soon after, the sound of sirens filled the air, and doctors and nurses rushed into the room. Willow, in the depths of despair, finally closed her eyes, a faint, serene smile on her face. The breeze gently brushed the windowsill, and Willow's life came to a quiet end. In the world of adults, this is how it is. Everyone must take responsibility for their own choices. So it was for Willow. And so it was for me. At least I had stayed true to my heart.